Welcome to the Mary Ewing Law Show.
Welcome back to the Mary Ewing Law Show. Mary is a veteran Colorado attorney who has spent more than 40 years helping clients navigate workers' compensation, personal injury, and family law cases. Known for her calm, practical approach, she helps injured people make sense of the process and get the help they are entitled to. I'm LeAnn Lyon, and today we are talking about how to prove pain. If you're hurting but don't look injured, what kind of evidence actually makes a difference in your case? Hello, Mary. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you. I'm happy to be here.
Mary, you've handled countless injury cases. When someone says, I'm in pain, but nobody believes me, how do you start helping them document what they're going through?
That can be really heartbreaking for people to be in significant pain. And yet, as you said, nobody believes them. And how do you establish that? Well, there are a number of ways in the legal process that I can establish the reality of pain. It's important for someone to go regularly to the doctor. That establishes that they have an ongoing injury that's causing a problem. S The reverse is if they don't go, then someone looking at it objectively is going to think, "Well, if they were hurt as bad as they say they are, then why didn't they go to the doctor?" So, take that point away from them. Often it's helpful for an injured person to keep a journal documenting, not just saying, "I'm in pain," Monday I'm in pain, Tuesday I'm in pain, Thursday I'm in pain, but actually put down, Monday I have to pick up the children from school, being in a car for an hour, driving and waiting for the children to get in the car increases the pain in my back such that it goes from the steady 5 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10, and I had to go home and put my feet up and rest for an hour after that. Some real concrete journal entries can be so helpful. And then I think, one can remind other people simple, ordinary things like if you have a stone in your shoe and you're just going for a nice walk, the pain becomes sometimes intolerable, at least enough that you gotta stop and take off your shoe, right? But nobody else can see that pain, but it's real. So if somebody says, you know, "Do you really have that much pain?" And God help, let's hope that they don't have somebody say that, but if they do, or if they're worried about that, you can use a common sense example of where we all know pain exists, but it may not be apparent.
Many injuries don't show up on an x ray or an MRI. How do you help clients prove something that can't always be seen?
Again, it's really the same process of going to the doctor regularly, but it helps also to go to someone who is a specialist in pain. There are people called pain management specialists that are very helpful in making recommendations for treatment. Also, physical therapists treat not just physical injuries like a broken arm, but they treat pain. So they can document the pain is improved or the pain is worse. That kind of documentation by third parties is very helpful. Then statements from people close to the injured person, spouses, children, coworkers, talking about how they can see at the end of the day how much pain the person is in because their brows are furrowed and they just get tired more frequently. They can't lift as high or can't um, do whatever their job requirements are as quickly as they used to.
Mhm.
Sometimes employers who are maybe a little annoyed that the person isn't getting as much work done as they did previously, such that they're not as productive, not as good an employee.
What kind of medical visits or follow ups help to show the full picture of someone's recovery, not just the initial treatment?
Well, as I said before, consistent medical care is important. The let's assume that the person was injured in a car accident. I had let's call it a client named Joe, who was injured in a car accident. He was taken to the hospital on an emergency room visit, and then he didn't go back. He's kind of a tough guy. He didn't go back for 3 months. And why did he go back in 3 months? Because all of a sudden, the herniated disc, which had actually been documented and diagnosed at the emergency room, all of a sudden comes screaming back in pain. And of course, the insurance company is claiming that he had an intervening injury that didn't happen.
Mhm.
So, if someone goes for emergency treatment, wants to give it 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, that's probably fine if they're thinking they're maybe getting better, but if they're still suffering after a week, they probably should get in for follow-up and determine what's going on and what further medical care will help treat their injury, and if possible, even have a diagnosis of what's causing the pain. What is it? Is it a pinched nerve? Is it a torn ligament? Do further X-rays need to be taken? Specialized medical radiology records like or exams like MRIs, CT scans can be very helpful in not just establishing injury, but determining the course of medical care.
Honest communication with doctors is very important. What kind of things should clients make sure to tell their medical providers?
I think it's helpful. I think we've all experienced this. You go to the doctor and you have things that you want to bring up, but you only bring up 3 of the 5 because you forgot or you were nervous or whatever. So I advise clients, take a notepad with you, write down what things you want to bring up. Sometimes it's helpful to even take a third party with the person so that the third party can hear what the doctor's saying and maybe say, well, Joe, you were going to tell the doctor about the pain in your neck as in addition to the neck, to your back, but you haven't mentioned that. Sometimes doctors don't like a third party. So that's where the note taking can be really important to be sure that what is told is what's actually happening.
How can photos or short videos like showing swelling or limited movement become useful later in the case?
That's a great question, and I'm happy to get to tell you what I recommend to clients, and that is if you have injuries that can be seen, take photographs of it. We all have a camera in our pocket because we carry around a cell phone, right? So if you have a bruise, take a picture of it. Don't just take one, take take a series over time so you can show how long it lasted. If you have durable medical equipment, you have a TENS unit or a crutch or whatever you have, um, a neck collar, uh, take photographs of it. Sometimes photographs, though, don't tell the whole picture. You need a little video clip. And a video clip can be helpful during things like your physical therapy to show how your range of motion isn't complete. You can't turn your neck all the way, or you can't raise your arm all the way. And there's a presumption, I think, that people are giving their best concerted effort with a physical therapist as opposed to if somebody's just asked to video and they say, "Well, this is how far I can turn my neck." I mean, it's not quite as believable, but if that's all you have, then that's all you have, and document it that way. So, also things like at the scene of the auto accident, you could show, where the cars were, what the damage to the 2 cars were. If you were injured on the job, a f a photograph of the equipment that was being used at the time of the injury. Great evidence to show how what happened happened. Or, gee, a slip and fall really requires photographs of where the person fell and what it looked like. If there was snow, then get photographs of the snow right away before it all melts. If that's not a question, but if, let's say, it's in shadow, then take and you weren't able to take photographs at the time you were injured, we'll go back when the sun is in the same direction.
Timing can really matter in these cases. What happens when someone waits weeks before seeing a doctor or stops treatment too soon?
Two things. There's, as I mentioned before, th there's a supposition by an outside observer, like an insurance company who's paid to create doubt, or just a jury or a friend that you're telling the story to. If you quit going to the doctor, it doesn't sound like you've got much pain, like you've gotten over it. If you don't go back to the doctor, then it doesn't sound like the pain, that disability that you're describing is accurate, or you would have gone back. But maybe the more important thing is that if you're still suffering, for goodness sakes, go back to the doctor for your own good health. You want to be sure that you get as completely healed as you possibly can from this injury. And if you quit treating when there's medical care that will help you, then get going. Go to those appointments and don't quit when you're still under recommendations to stay with treatment. Keep up with that treatment so you will get better. Or if you don't, then maybe there's a different kind of treatment that you need to see about from the doctor or a referral to a different kind of doctor. But you want to be sure that you're giving it your best effort to get over whatever has befallen you.
How do you handle cases where a client already has a medical condition before the accident? And what helps separate what's old from what's new?
Good question. The most important thing is to tell your lawyer and tell your doctor about that prior injury. I had a client that kept that a secret. He thought nobody'd find out if he didn't tell anybody. But insurance companies have ways to get all kinds of information.
Mm.
And when it came time to tell his story, he was made to look out like a liar, which would not have happened if he had told me and he had told his doctors. Why? Couple of things. The we all we all have injuries, and many of us have, recurrent back injuries or recurrent concussions or whatever. It happens. But the law recognizes that. So if, for example, you've completely healed, then, tell your doctor, yes, I had a torn ligament in my knee, but I had surgery on it and my knee is perfect. I could go back to skiing and playing tennis and golf. I could do anything I wanted to do. And now I've injured my knee again and I can't do anything. Very believable, very appropriate. Let's change those facts though. Let's say you have a client that didn't. All right, let's put it in the perspective of an injured person. An injured person um, did not recover from the prior injury. We have something that's referred to, maybe disrespectfully, as the eggshell plaintiff or the thin skull plaintiff, which says that if a jury can't apportion the injuries between pre-existing and the injury at question, they could apportion the entirety of the economic and non-economic damages to the person who caused the recent injury. Now, my personal belief is that if the person has a prior injury, there has to be some good evidence where the injured person was made worse, or I don't think a jury is going to apportion everything to the current tortfeasor because they'll see it as it's just not fundamentally fair. But there's some injuries that get incrementally worse when they're injured a second time. Concussions. The medical testimony is really quite frightening. If you've had a concussion and then you have another one, even the worst case is to have another concussion shortly thereafter. I mean, like weeks to months close in time. It makes the injuries so much worse because your brain is not designed to be injured, doesn't have blood supply. And there's lots of medical evidence on how worse it gets. Even if someone had a concussion years ago, they have another concussion, they are still likely to have significantly worse problems, medically documented. So explain to your doctor, explain to your attorney what's happened, and let them present the best case for establishing how you've been injured in the current event that's caused you harm.
Well, that is excellent advice. And that is it for today's episode of the Mary Ewing Law Show. If you've been injured in Colorado and need clear, experienced guidance on documenting your recovery and protecting your claim, visit maryewinglaw.com or call 303-886-5400. Thanks for listening. And as always, be sure to like, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you catch every episode. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.